Welcome.
You are watching Line Screw 1.
Well, hello tubers, hope you're doing well wherever you are in this crazy YouTube universe. Today I have to announce the untimely passing of my beloved American dog, Sammie. She passed away a few weeks ago. I haven't really been in the mood to discuss it publicly, but enough time has passed that I figured I could at least share my story, and I know there's millions of you dog lovers out there who will have to go through the exact same thing as me. So I figured I would at least give you some moral support and a few things to think about if I can help in any way. Sammie's passing wasn't all bad. We'll talk about that too. So anyway, this all began in June 12th, where we had a confirmation diagnosis that Sammie had lymphoma. Now, there's many kinds of lymphoma cancers. Generally, they can affect about 15 to 20% of dogs. And unfortunately, Sammie's was caught a little too late. She had a pretty big lump right there. And she also, a biopsy showed that another kind of cancer had even spread to her mouth. So once it's in the lymphatic system, you know, it's spreading aggressively to all parts of the body and organs and things like that. But she actually had a really good last month, and the survival rate for lymphoma once it's diagnosed and confirmed, because obviously, you know, people don't bring their dogs in to be tested for cancer every month. So obviously these things get caught sometimes later, leaving you with three options. One, do nothing. Many people do that, especially if you can't afford things or you're in a very rural area away from proper veterinarian care, which is where I've been, even though I've been around veterinarian care, but not, you know, oncology, you know, for cancer specialists. That is one of the other options. It's very expensive. I have talked to people I personally know who have done it, and I think in Sammie's case, even if I would have spent $10,000 on chemotherapy, it really would not have extended her life much. But that's just my opinion based on how aggressive her cancer was. So anyway, she was diagnosed on June 12th, which I'd mentioned in a previous video. And we embarked upon all sorts of treatments except for chemotherapy. So we first dealt with any potential infections, secondary infections. Once that was done, you know, onto the prednisone, and the prednisone can extend a dog's quality of life and even the amount of life briefly. And it was quite successful with Sammie in the beginning. Unfortunately, the side effects from the prednisone, she had to pee constantly. She used to have an iron bladder, or she could hold her bladder sometimes like 11 hours. She would have to pee, you know, every hour or two around the clock. So my life became a caretaker for her, and I didn't mind at all, because I knew it was only going to be till the end of her life. At best a few months. So my life was swallowed up with her diarrhea and things like that, and you know, I put her on meds to slow that down, had to reduce the prednisone, but I think she got the full effect of the prednisone, and then we reduced the dosage significantly, and she did quite well. She was a trooper, quite active. We'd go for walks all over the place. And most days I figured, hey, this dog could last a long time. Her birthday actually was July 19th, and I was hoping she'd make it to that. That would have been her 11th birthday. And, you know, during the rest of June and into July, there were so many days I'd look at the dog and go, oh man, she's got a lot of life left in her. Based on how she was acting, because that's the only subjective way, and I guess there's some objectivity. If a dog looks sick, it can be pretty obvious. And that was not the case with her. So she was doing quite well, other than some side effects, like I said, with the urine holding, which resolved itself quite well once the dosing of the prednisone was reduced. So that's one of the severe side effects. But it became quite obvious that, you know, into July, that the cancer had spread to other organs, because her diarrhea became out of control. But to her credit, she was quite a trooper. She'd let me know when she'd have to go, and I would get up. You know, she'd get a walk at 12 in midnight, and 3 a.m., 6 a.m. You get the idea. Around the clock. So she didn't have any accidents inside in terms of pooping. The peeing, though, when that was a problem, one time I'm sitting in the bathroom, and she just hops down onto the ground, onto the floor, just pees right in front of me. It's like, oh, wow. Okay, I think you're trying to tell me something. So, what can you do? Hey, that's when you're a dog owner, you got to deal with these things. Yeah, you clean it up, and you get the dog out even more. But we got it down to about a 3-hour rotation where everything was fine, and she was acting pretty good. And we'd go for some good walks and things like that. And she was behaving quite well until July 10th. The evening of July 10th, I could tell things had changed very quickly from the morning to that evening. Right around midnight on the 10th, I realized her breathing was really short. She was not acting the same way. She was starting to be in distress from her aggressive cancer. So I realized that was probably going to be the last night on Earth that I was going to get to spend with her. So I slept with her. Kept her comfortable, and in the morning I had to arrange for euthanasia. Being that I'm a long ways outside of Vancouver, veterinary services are not as abundant, and quite often they're booked up. So the one veterinarian I had been using, they were booked solid. I had to drive a ways out to Hope, British Columbia. That's for you movie buffs, that's where the Rambo series started with First Blood. Had to drive all the way out to Hope, and I had a booking for a euthanasia in the afternoon. And we made a good day out of it. Sammie got a burger. She got a little bit of strawberry ice cream. She loves her car rides. We stopped at some rest areas along the way, and we got to Hope. There's a beautiful little park right in Central Hope, and it was a bit surreal walking her in the park, making her think that it's just another outing, just another day out, knowing that she had an appointment in 15 minutes to be put down. So she didn't really see any of it coming, and in a strange way, having that done in a veterinary clinic that she's never been to before, probably eliminated the stress. And they had a compassion room where the process was done, and the veterinarian that I actually used had just returned from being off work from cancer herself, and they were great people, very compassionate. And it was a two-step process. There's the sedation and then the final injection. And they even had a door where, rather than you having to walk through the clinic and deal with the public, you can just exit outside and leave. So the sedation took at least 20 minutes. where she was sedated, and I stayed until she lost consciousness. At that point, I figured, emotionally, not really prepared for the final injection, because at that point it's irrelevant. The dog is unconscious. So at that point, I thanked them for the services. I had prepaid for everything and arranged for cremation. And ashes to ashes. We all go back to the ground in some way eventually. Anyway, and then I stepped out, and it was over. So I stepped out, and it was over. And driving home, it was kind of a weird feeling of grief and relief. Now, Sammie was in pretty good spirits that afternoon, because she kind of perked up a lot, for the car ride, and the strawberry ice cream and the hamburger and all the goodies that I gave her. So we made it a typical outing. I tried to make sure that she had special days during her last month, and her last day on Earth was no different. It was a special day. So driving home was a bit surreal, because it was the first time I ever experienced grief and relief at the same time. Kind of weird to have those two emotions kind of layered together, but that's part of the human experience, to experience these things, to learn from them, and can't say enjoy them, but you definitely you archive these feelings so that when they happen again in life, you're prepared for them, right? That's pretty much the best way I can put it. So the suffering was over. On that last day, as we're sedating her, I'm thinking, oh God, this dog probably, she's doing good at the moment, not forgetting what had happened the night before, where she had a really rough night. But that trip out to Hope, Sammie was feeling quite exuberant and happy for getting out and doing something. And part of you thinks, well, man, this dog could probably last days more, maybe another week. And you figure, oh yeah, but what about night? What about having her suffer? Very easy to be selfish, to think, I want the dog around, so let's keep her alive a little longer. Easy for you to be selfish about it. It would be easy for me to be selfish about it. But in the end, the dog is the one that has to suffer through this inconvenience. Pretty easy for me to get the dog out every hour on the hour and be a caretaker. I'm retired. We got some noise going on over there. Pretty easy for me to accommodate her for a month or two, as a caregiver. But in the end, the dog has to do the heavy lifting of the suffering. So I figured I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have the dog go through another night or multiple nights of this. And I figured the time had come. So on the 11th of July, she passed around 4 in the afternoon here, Pacific time. So, yeah. But the good news, I can dedicate some time doing some charity work for an agency in Washington State. I went to Washington State the week after to do some dog fostering. So I'm on an approved list. I went to an orientation, and I went and signed up for that. So if there is a stray dog somewhere in Washington, because Sammie came from Washington, Sammie was an American. Not that they bestow citizenship to dogs, but you get the idea. So I figured I would volunteer for, there's thousands of people in Washington that have to give up their dogs, so either they can't afford it, or they have to move into a place that does not allow dogs. So, fostering dogs temporarily that are in need when the shelters are inundated is something I figured I'd sign up for. And I do have, 6, 7, 8 months before I sell the RV to dedicate to doing that. So it would be my pleasure to volunteer I'm on the list. I went to the orientation. Yeah, I'm one of the rare Canadians that has decided to do volunteer work in the U.S. of A. Not too many people do volunteer work on either side. I'm a trusted traveler. Crossing the border for me is nothing, and other than the time that it takes to drive there. Yeah, so it's onward and upward. And the plan still continues. We will winter through here. We will sell the RV in late winter, early spring, and we shall move forward with our other plans. But the other big news is because Sammie's gone, I don't have to spend $40-50 a day for boarding care when I am away. That's why whenever I'd go to Europe and places like that, I could never really go more than about a week or so, because the cost of parking the car at the airport, and then the dog, you're running a bill of $70 a day just to be away. So you're away 10 days, you can add $700 to the trip, which is, it's necessary. You got to have your dog looked after. And Sammie enjoyed the kennel that she went to. I always made sure that kennel got all the business, so she was used to being there. And of course, they gave me a better rate as time went on because I gave them all my business. And quite often, I think the last time she was in that kennel was October, when I went to see RV Crazy in Europe, when I flew out to London. I think that was the last time I used their services. And whenever I would drop her off, it was like a holiday for her too. She's like, hey, I get to sniff the other dogs and bark with the other dogs. She always had her own little run because she couldn't be around other dogs. She was great with people, not so great with other animals. She didn't really suffer other dogs' behavior very well. But she'd have her own run. She'd have a great time. She enjoyed it, and quite often I realized that dropping her off there, it was like her holiday while I had my holiday. So I am announcing in the latter part of next month, in September, I'm embarking upon a big tour. I think it's 11,000 kilometers. What's that, about 7,000-8,000 miles? Big tour. I got at least 5 flights booked and paid for. So I may be near wherever you are at some point in September, doing a magical mystery tour of many places. Particularly to see some old friends that I may not get to see a lot in the future. So looking forward to that, and of course you are invited along. You will see some of these adventures. So I'm planning that. It's for the most part paid for. I'm booked. So that is what is in store for me. And then I guess October, be hunkering down for the big winter prep of surviving another, maybe my last, well, not maybe, it's going to be my last RV winter. So I'm pretty good at it now, and I think we're going to have a pretty mild winter. So a lot of travel in store, and I guess that's my reward for being a caretaker around the clock for a month. I can focus on me now and doing what I want. But Sammie was a good dog. Had a lot of fun, and often when I was with her, between trips between the Mexican border and Alaska, I'd always think, you know what? Sometimes it can be a pain to have a dog, but it's always slightly better to have a dog. And if you're going to embark upon a lot of solo traveling with me, always nice to have someone to come home to that loves you. They don't care that you're a little late getting back. They're just happy to see you. They're just happy you made it home. And it was always nice to have her around. And we were in a lot of places that were very remote, and times I was hiking in the Cascade Mountains. We're in cougar country and bear country, and having Sammie on that leash when we're hiking, she was game. Anybody messed with us in terms of wildlife, oh boy, she had no sense of fear, none at all. Because I've seen her. One time we were in the Tongass National Forest, just north of one of the gravel roads of Hyder, Alaska. We come around a corner and there's a bear. She's in the front seat riding shotgun with me, and she's just with her claws just let me at him. Just wants to scratch up the old dashboard, you know. Let me at him. I'll take him on. No sense of fear, which was quite remarkable. And I kid you not, Sammie would be a very, very formidable opponent to any cougar, grizzly, black bear, because of her lack of fear and yeah, she was just profound with that. Her instincts were just remarkable, but yet so kind and gentle around even small children and adults. So Sammie is gone, and the new chapter begins. And what is today? I'm recording this on the 31st of July, so Sammie's been gone several weeks. Just wasn't in the mood to crank out a video and talk about any of this, but figured enough time had passed that I could give you some cogent thoughts and maybe some moral support if you go through this, and I'm sure many of you have gone through this. But that's the price of loving anybody or anything, any creature, is that eventually they will pass, unless you pass first. And all I can say is that we have to remember death is a part of life. We forget that often. You can read into that whatever personal meaning you interpret, but death is a part of life, and it's the debt you pay for living. Anything, any creature, small, great, or large, if you're alive, enjoy your life, because the debt you pay for that life is that one day you will die. Embrace it, accept it, don't fool yourself about it, and that's just the way it is, and enjoy it and make the best of it. That's all we can do, and that's all I'm going to do. So I guess I shall end this yattering. How do I end this? In the meantime, stay safe, keep your wheels in the ground. I'll talk to you soon. Over and out.
Sammie the Mouse Hunter wants me dead. Coming this fall on A&E. Sammie the Mouse Hunter.